He stood alone in a dim, tiny room, bare walls, no savings, and a future so empty it almost echoed. Most people didn't see him struggle. They barely noticed he existed. But inside, he was fighting a battle no one else could see. Every single day felt like pushing against a wall that refused to move. And just when he thought nothing would ever change, life placed something unexpected in his path, something so ordinary that anyone else would have walked right past it. But for him, it became the spark that flipped his entire world upside down. This isn't a story about sudden success or magical timing. It's about what happens when someone at rock bottom discovers one small truth that shifts everything. Stay with me for this moment, because the turning point that reshaped his life is the same one that might quietly reshape yours in ways you never expected. This story is designed to touch your heart. His days blurred together into a monotonous cycle: early mornings, long shifts at a job he didn't love, and sleepless nights spent wondering why his effort never seemed to pay off. He watched friends move forward, posting pictures of their new homes, starting families, and building careers that seemed to climb higher every year. Meanwhile, he couldn't even afford a new pair of shoes. The soles of his were worn so thin he could feel the cold of the pavement right through them. Every setback, every rejection, every closed door chipped away at the little hope he had left. He wasn't lazy. He was exhausted from trying so hard for so long with nothing to show for it. Bills piled up on his small kitchen table, each envelope a reminder of what he lacked. Opportunities that seemed promising would slip right through his fingers at the last second. Every time he reached for something better, it felt like life pushed him 2 steps back. But the worst part wasn't the lack of progress. It was the feeling of being invisible, forgotten, replaceable. At work, he was just a number. In his personal life, he felt like a ghost watching others live. He questioned himself constantly. What's the point? Is this all there is? Why keep going if nothing ever changes? His heart carried a weight far heavier than his empty pockets. It was the weight of doubt, of loneliness, of feeling like a failure. And just when he felt completely ready to quit, to let go of the last thread of hope, something unexpected shattered the cycle and quietly challenged everything he believed about his own limits. One evening, while dragging himself home from another draining shift, he noticed an old man sitting outside a tiny workshop, a dusty, forgotten-looking place he'd walked past 1,000 times but never truly seen. The man wasn't wealthy or impressive. He wore simple clothes stained with paint and clay, and he carried a quiet calmness that didn't match the noisy, chaotic world around him. Without asking, the old man simply gestured to an empty wooden crate beside him, offering a seat. The young man, too tired to refuse, sat down. They didn't talk much at first, just a few words about the weather. But something about the mentor's steady, non-judgmental presence made him feel seen for the first time in years. The old man didn't lecture or offer advice. He just listened. He saw the exhaustion in the young man's eyes and didn't look away. As he got up to leave, the old man simply said, "Come back tomorrow." Confused but strangely curious, he agreed. He didn't know it then, but this chance encounter, this quiet, unremarkable moment with a stranger, was about to become the turning point that changed everything about how he viewed struggle, progress, and himself. The next day, true to his word, he returned. The old man greeted him with a gentle nod and guided him to a dusty corner of the workshop. There, on a small wooden table, sat a tiny clay pot filled with nothing but dry soil. No leaves, no green, no signs of life whatsoever. The mentor handed him a small watering can and asked him to water it. He did. Nothing happened. Not a single movement. The soil just got darker. The young man felt a familiar wave of disappointment. It seemed pointless. Then the old man handed him a small, unlit candle. He lit it, and the flame flickered, wavered, and nearly went out every time he breathed too close. "Watch closely," the mentor whispered. The young man held his breath. As the room grew still, the flame steadied. It stopped flickering, and then, almost defiantly, it flared brighter, casting a warm, steady glow across the room. The old man smiled. "This is you," he said. "You think you're fading. You think the slightest breeze will put you out. But you're just one moment of stillness, one breath away from burning brighter than ever." The young man stared at the candle, confused yet strangely moved. The demonstration wasn't dramatic or magical, it was simple. But in that simplicity lay a profound truth he had never stopped to consider. He had been so focused on the flickering, he forgot about the fire inside. The mentor wasn't finished. He walked back over to the small clay pot and gently brushed away a thin layer of soil from the top. Beneath the surface, barely visible to the naked eye, was a tiny green sprout, pale, fragile, but undeniably alive. It was growing, hidden from the world. The young man's eyes widened. He stared at it, speechless. All this time he thought the pot was empty, that his watering was useless. But progress had been taking place quietly, invisibly, beneath the surface. Most people quit right here, the old man said softly, his voice full of empathy. Right at the moment they think nothing is working. They get tired of watering empty dirt. They walk away, completely unaware that they were 1 inch away from a breakthrough. The words hit the young man like a physical force. The mentor continued, his gaze steady and kind. Almost quitting and almost succeeding feel exactly the same. Both are silent. Both are uncomfortable. Both are filled with doubt. But only one leads to transformation. In that instant, the young man suddenly saw his entire life differently. Every struggle, every slow day, every moment that felt pointless, it wasn't failure. It was growth happening in the dark. It was the sprout he couldn't see. And this realization, this simple, powerful truth, became the moment everything inside him began to shift. The wall he had been pushing against didn't disappear, but for the first time he realized it wasn't a wall at all. It was just the darkness before the dawn. The mentor finally brought the lesson home, explaining the message clearly. Growth hides, he said. When you plant a seed, nothing happens on the surface at first. When you learn a new skill, or train your body, or build a dream from nothing, the changes are invisible in the beginning. Progress doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fireworks, it waits silently for you to keep showing up. He lifted the candle again, letting the flame waver softly between them. The light comes back the moment you think it won't. Your hope returns right when you feel it's gone forever. But only if you stay long enough to see it return. And in that moment, the young man understood the mistake he'd been making his whole life. He had been abandoning his own efforts too soon. He mistook silence for failure. He mistook slow for impossible. He mistook the dark soil for an empty pot. The mentor's voice softened, filled with a deep sincerity. Your effort is working, he said, even when you can't see it. The long hours, the sacrifices, the tears, none of it is wasted. Don't walk away from the life you are building just because the results are still underground. Don't give up on yourself 5 minutes before the miracle. The lesson was so simple, yet it rewired everything he believed about himself and his journey. The young man felt something inside him loosen like a knot that had been tightening in his chest for years was finally gently releasing. His shoulders, which had been hunched over from the weight of his worries, softened and dropped. His breathing, usually rushed and shallow, settled into a calm, steady rhythm. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, his thoughts weren't sharp or heavy. They were clear, almost hopeful. He stood a little taller, his eyes brighter, as if the world around him had quietly shifted into focus. The struggles were still there, the bills were still on the table, the job was still demanding, but they no longer defined him. They were just the soil. He now knew there was a sprout growing underneath. He began walking home with a steady, grounded resolve. It wasn't a dramatic, movie-like transformation. It wasn't a miracle. It was just real. He wasn't fixed, but he was no longer broken. He understood now he was still becoming. And that single realization was enough to keep going. Your story isn't finished either. Your breakthrough may be far closer than you realize. Think about that one part of your life where you almost walked away, your business, your art, your healing, your relationship. Hold it gently in your mind. Then give it one more day, one more try, one more breath. If this story brought you even a small amount of strength, please like, share, and subscribe. And send it to someone who needs to hear this truth today. You are not done yet. Your growth is just happening in the dark. Thanks for watching.